Hey guys, it's Daniel Tardy with the Entree Leadership Team, and I'm here today with our Vice President of Entree Leadership, Sarah Sloyan, and we're excited to have you along for the ride on this 3-part video series where we're going to be talking about what real leadership looks like. You know, there's a lot of ideas out there about what leadership is, and that word gets thrown around a lot, but what we've learned is it really is what John Maxwell says. It's all about influence. The ability to connect with other people and have an influence on what they're thinking, on the direction that we're going. And so we're going to break that down a little bit today, because it's one thing to say you need to have influence, but learning how we actually build influence is really the secret sauce. So Sarah, you and I have worked together for a long time, and we've seen leaders in our area grow and increase their influence. And we've kind of set this up with 4 steps that we're going to break down today. So I think before we get into those steps, it'd be cool to hear from your perspective. What has influence meant for you as a leader? Where have you seen it start to really matter as people are growing as leaders on your team? And why do we really need to take this whole thing so seriously?
I think that influence really means that it makes it easier for people to go along the ride with me. So if we go through the steps that we're going to walk through appropriately, it just makes that whole process smoother. We all enjoy it a lot more. They know I care about them, and that's why we're going to this place. And it just ties it back to that why versus it just feeling kind of like a boss relationship.
Yeah, because when influence isn't there, you have to resort to power and position, and you feel like you're somebody's mom or dad, and no one loves that. That's we want to be treated like adults, and do this through the kind of the relationship approach when we can. So absolutely, it's all about building influence, and if we don't have influence, we got to revert to power and position. We feel like we're being somebody's mom or dad, and nobody likes that. You know, we want to be treated like adults. So what we figured out is there's a few things that precede influence. You can't just create influence. There's a formula almost, and it starts with building rapport. Rapport gives the opportunity to gain credibility. Credibility leads to more trust, and then out of those 3 things, that's what produces influence.
That's right.
So let's talk about rapport. You're one of the best I know at building rapport. You've done this with all of your clients in sales for many years, but you use that same skill to build rapport with your team, with other people in the building that are your peers, leading your leaders with building rapport. I mean, it really does all start there, right? Why is that the first step?
You know, we were talking about this the other day, and it reminded me of a Roosevelt quote. He talked about people they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Wait, say that again. That's huge. That's a big quote.
They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So where I've seen that with team members is they're not really open to hearing your feedback if they don't feel like you care about them. When they know that you care about them and you're giving them feedback to help them grow, then they want to know what your feedback is. They care about what you have to say. And eventually we'll talk about this in our steps, but they trust you. They trust your advice.
Yeah, but they work for us. They should just care. It's their job.
No.
You know, I can hear somebody going, but I'm the boss. They should just do what I say because I'm pay their money. I pay the paycheck.
That's just not how people are wired. That's just not how people are wired. They need to know that you care about them. And that, when we talk about some of the tactical things that you can do to build rapport, this is not kind of like, okay, I'm going to do this thing to check that box. People sense that. You have to genuinely feel the feeling that's behind that emotion, you know, that whatever you're doing. If you're writing a handwritten note, you actually have to feel that. It can't be like, I'm going to write this note and I'm going to manipulate them into thinking I care about them.
Yep.
A lot of times I think we are thinking about the things that we're graded on or measured on or our priorities. But if we can take a step back and recognize something for somebody else, it means a lot. One of the examples that has meant a lot to me that other people have done really well and I've kind of taken note of is we have our staff meeting announcements. It's 700 people that people are presenting in front of. A lot of us are not expert presenters.
And it's a big group.
It's a big group, yes. And Dave is sitting on stage watching you, and he is an expert communicator, so you feel this pressure. And what I have found is there are just a small number of people who, after I give a staff meeting presentation, will shoot me a quick email, and they'll say, hey, or a text, that was really great, or man, you really killed it, or what great results. And I think that is so beautiful that they would take a moment out of their busy time and acknowledge that was a really nerve-wracking moment for me, and to acknowledge that and that really instantly I like them because I think they're cheering me on.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. So there's rapport right there. So I want to underscore what Sarah's saying here, and I've brought my my visual aid for how this gets represented for me. So building rapport doesn't have to be complicated. And it should not be inconsistent with just who you are as a person. So don't make this forced. Don't take something and turn it into something that feels like it's not really you. But for me, I've got this football in my office. In fact, Sarah and the team gave me this one for Christmas. It's got my name on it. And I love this thing because I've just always been able to use this when I'm walking around and checking in on the team. There's something about throwing it around and just being very human. And in fact, this just right before we came in here, I grabbed a couple guys and we ran out and the sun's out, and we just threw a few passes. And there's something about, especially as the leader, you're naturally going to appear to the team as a little bit out of touch, a little bit, you're working on busy, important things, and your door's closed to your office. And if you allow that perception to always be what's true of you, the team's going to feel like there's a disconnect, and that disconnect is an enemy to rapport. And so look for creative ways. And for me, it's just grab a football and walk around. And that's just my mental cue to go, hey, I need to make sure I'm connecting with people and I'm being human. Ellen DeGeneres is great at this. She's a very successful multimillionaire media mogul. But every time she comes on her show, she starts with that little cheesy dance and she just comes down to earth and she's building rapport with the audience. So figure out as a leader, right, what are the little things, the text you can send,
right,
the football you can grab, the lunch that you can go to and pick up the tab, but all that stuff, you're building relationship, you're building rapport. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Right, you're showing that you care.
Yeah, that's right. So when people know you care, now they're interested in what you have to say. And guess what? You don't have to be the leader. If you're watching this and you're going, well, I don't have a title, I guess I have to wait until I'm the leader before I can do those things. No, you'll get to become the leader if you start doing those things with your peers. That's how you increase your influence even in the trenches without having that title, right?
Right.
So rapport builds to credibility. If you have rapport, then you start to kind of create credibility with people. We were talking about this earlier. Credibility is really the combination of rapport and connection and then results.
Right.
And we all know that person who's got a bazillion ideas, but they never execute.
Or is super likable. I think we've all had that person
right.
that's like, everyone loves that person. But what exactly do they do other than walk around, drinking coffee?
Yeah.
So
why is credibility so vital on our way to influence?
Yeah. I think when someone has credibility, then you know that they have the ability to get those results, and then you take their advice seriously. If they've never run a marathon and they're sitting there telling you all about how to run a marathon, you're going to think, okay, and I should, they sit on the couch and eat potato chips. Right. It's not going to add up. Your advice is probably not very valid for me.
Yeah, I see this a lot, especially with people who are younger in their careers. They have a lot of passion and ideas. They want their voice to be heard, and they don't know why their ideas aren't getting activated. Yep. And so the thing I would encourage any of us, regardless of how old you are, if you will activate your ideas and you will listen for other people's good ideas and go and execute on those things. Go and be seen as the person who's going, give me the ball. I'm going to run with it. I'm going to make this happen, because talk is cheap and results are rare, and people that can get them really.
I would take it one step further. A lot of people, it's very easy for me to sit here and look into someone else's area and say, oh, you're doing it all wrong, and here's what you should be doing. Credibility starts with killing it in your current area. Really looking at, what am I tasked with today and what's my role today? And let me be the best at this. Because what'll happen then is other people who are, let's say you and I both come from a sales background. If we are the very best sales advisor, everyone's going to see that and they're going to start saying, hey, what are you doing there that's different than what I'm doing? Can you give me some advice on this? Or they will start seeking out your advice simply because of the excellence that you've created in your own role.
Yes, absolutely. And we're talking about this all the time when we're solving a problem. And we're kind of going, who's the right person to get in the room that can really help us figure this out? It's always the person that's top of mind for us is like, this person's already doing this. They're already solving this problem. They have a track record. They have a reputation of having credibility in this space. And then whether it's in their job description or not, one day we go, hey, could you pop in this meeting real quick? And now they're in the room. And now they have more influence. And so this thing really does builds traction. Totally.
Yeah. And I think when someone has proven that they can solve a problem, they become more and more valuable. Anybody can come in and copy a formula that's already written.
Yeah.
And what I think a lot of people, when they have a formula they've got to figure out, they can think, oh, why would I want to do this? Well, because if you can prove that you can solve this, then you can solve the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it makes me think you're credible not only in making a sale, but also in problem solving, which is applicable regardless of the discipline that you'll be moving into.
Yes, couldn't agree more. So it starts with rapport. Rapport leads to the opportunity to build credibility. And the key thing that lets us do is really start building trust. Without trust, we don't have a foundation for influence and leadership. So where have you seen trust really make or break somebody's ability to lead and create influence within your area?
Yeah, sometimes as leaders, we have to ask people to follow us based on trust. When I think about some of the big visions that we've set out for the team, we don't always know how we're going to get there. We're going to figure it out along the way. We're going to make it happen, but I can't necessarily tell you all of this exact steps along the way. I just sometimes need the team to come along and trust me that this is going to be what's best for our team and that we're going to make this happen. And that what we're doing is best for our clients. You know, sometimes that's not, I just feel it and I know it, but I can't always say, well, here's exactly the proof. We need to kind of go out and test things. But I think because we've got that history of credibility, because we've, shown that we've got a track record, because they know I care about them and I care about our clients, then that means, okay, well, I'm going to go out on a limb. Now, I can't ask them always to go out on a limb and trust me, but there are times where I have to say, I know this feels kind of crazy, but I just think this is something we need to do, and they've got my back because we've got that history together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And the thing that I think we say trust, I want to be clear, we wouldn't have people on our team if we didn't trust their integrity.
Absolutely.
I think about who are the people on our team that I trust to have our back and to put the team first no matter what. And there are some people on the team, this is a very normal thing to happen, where they're killing it in their job description, they're doing great work, they're getting results, but you're not quite sure they're going to put the team ahead of their own agenda. And at the end of the day, that's really what we're looking for, right? We're looking for somebody who's going to go, look, whatever it takes, the team comes first, and I'm all in on the mission. And that's the trust. We want the confidence that's going to be.
To build into being a leader, you have to have that. Who wants to follow a leader that's only into their own interests? Who's going to manipulate the things for their best interest? They want to trust that this leader has the big picture and cares about all of the things involved and is not just in it to, pad their own paycheck or whatever.
Yeah. I remember being in the season where I wasn't in leadership, but I thought I wanted to be. And I remember the dominant ideas about leadership in my head at the time were, what will I get to do and how will I get to benefit when I'm a leader? Because if my voice counts more, then I get to shape things the way that would be nice for Daniel. I mean, it's just so backwards. Like sitting on this side of it now, when I sense that coming from people on our team, I'm like, you don't get it. This is not, because ultimately when you get more influence, you only are using that, if you're doing it right, to help better the team. And so if you're wanting more influence to make your world better, you're never going to get the team on board, which means you don't get to lead anyway.
And you're not going to be happy.
That credibility.
I think a lot of times leaders who don't have this fire that drives them because they feel called to be a leader, it's not what's in it for them. It's because they care about their team or the mission, and they believe that there's a piece that they can do to drive that forward. I mean, that's a big gap. Where your heart is at in leadership, I think, can be a big gap.
Absolutely. If it's not true in your heart that the team comes first, you really need to check yourself and go, do I want to take this ride towards leadership? Because it's not fun if it's about you. It's only fun when it's about serving the team. So rapport leads to credibility. Credibility leads to trust. And ultimately, trust leads to influence. And so in the next video, we're going to unpack how to really build influence and how to take influence from when you have it into impacting the team and the direction of the business into a really positive way. So between now and then, if you're watching this and you're going, hey, I'd like to have more influence, stop for a second and think, what am I doing to build rapport? What am I doing to build credibility? Am I actually putting in the reps to build trust with my leader or with my peers? Or if you're a leader and you're wanting somebody on your team to kind of get plugged in on this, have them watch this video, walk them through these steps. If they're asking for a promotion, maybe ask them to stop and look at these steps and help evaluate, are we doing these things along the way? And you can download the PDF tool that we have that helps you kind of have this assessment check-in with your team and figure out how are they doing with rapport, with credibility, with trust. And then that can give them a starting point and some good action items to start moving towards their growth as a leader as they build influence.